What is up? How do you get into the Discord? Well, that is a good question, my friend. There's the link to the Discord. It's also linked in every one of my videos. Let me turn down the music a little bit. Welcome. It's a bit of a hack job to show chat right now. I still haven't, I mean, to be fair, I haven't actually done a whole lot of research on it just yet because I've been so busy with my next video, but we'll have notifications and links and all those other sorts of things that people want to do fixed hopefully by next week. So any sort of interactions or things that happen in the stream, you guys, there will be some kind of notification sound. Welcome. First thing at the top of this, I want to thank Dan Holiday. I keep saying Holiday. It's not an A. Dan Holiday, who has become the second ever supporter of my YouTube channel. So thank you. I really appreciate that. Dan, I mean, if you guys don't know Dan, he plays for Tampa Bay Damage. He's been in the paintball world forever. But over the course of, I don't know, however many weeks, I feel like Dan and I have kindled a great friendship. So I appreciate you, Dan. Thank you so much for everything. Brandon, thank you for being a supporter. My goodness. Welcome, dude. Ready to talk and learn paintball. Well, welcome, Brandon. I appreciate it. Dan Holiday Styles, aka The Ghost. All good. Yeah, no, you don't, like I said, do not feel pressured at all to say anything. You guys, most people who do watch me just kind of sit and don't say much. So, and that's totally fine. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask at any point in the stream. Otherwise, we'll cover the topics that we have for today. So here's a few things that we're going to talk about, as was mentioned or as is shown in the description. We're going to talk about people helping people, powerful stuff. Absolutely. So we're going to talk about some concepts that I learned through Rusty Glaze. So for some of you who don't know, Rusty Glaze came last year to the Utah Bro Army camp and held a clinic, and it was awesome. Tyler Harmon was there. Victor Gamboa. It was really cool. And they talked about the Rusty's portion of the clinic was to talk about paintball strategy. And he talked about this concept that some of you might be familiar with, others might not, which is this idea of flipping the field versus plugging the hole. And it isn't to say that one is better than the other, but we'll cover what each of those are, and we'll talk about different scenarios in which you might do one over the other. So I'm kind of out of frame. I need to zoom my camera out a little bit here. Let's do that a little bit. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about some principles related to playing the pocket and what that even means. Some people are relatively new to paintball, and so there's a few schools of thought in how to play paintball and different strategies that you try to utilize to counter like really aggressive play styles. And playing the pocket is one of those. There's lots of pros and cons to playing the pocket, and we'll go over that today. Another thing that somebody from the Discord wanted us to talk about, which is problem solving, which is a bit of a euphemistic phrase for what he mentioned. I think he said something like, in the Discord, he said something like, what did he say? Something like, how do you tell your teammate to F off or something? I thought that was pretty funny. So as you guys know, if you're in the Discord, like prior to this stream, usually the day prior, I'll send out a notification asking people, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? If there's other things you want me to cover, other layouts you want me to go over, just let me know. And that's your kind of time to notify me. And that was one of the things that he mentioned. So we'll probably talk a little bit about that. I'm not sure how much really truly needs to be said, but that is, I thought that was pretty funny. So, and that's what we're going to do today. We are going to use some pretty sophisticated tools, such as Microsoft Paint and probably guns up here. So judging, getting ready for practice tomorrow. So listening. Awesome. Always happy to support good paintball content. Thank you, Brandon. I really appreciate that. I really do. Thank you. Okay. Well, let's, without further ado, I'm trying to get better at using my actual... Yeah, that's the scene button. Okay, cool. So let's talk about, actually, let's use Microsoft Paint. Let's talk about this concept of flipping the field, okay? Versus plugging the hole. So we're going to imagine, I'm not super familiar with Paint, admittedly, so this might be a little difficult. which some of you might be thinking, how are you not familiar with paint? All right. So let's imagine that this is one side of the field up top, and down here is another side of the field. Okay. We're in a God's perspective right now. And there's a question of how do we play certain scenarios when we're in down body situations? Okay. I think that paintball is like most, I think paintball is actually less complicated the fewer people you have, but that is only partially the case, because the other part that makes paintball kind of confusing or complicated is knowing how you can best utilize your positioning to and exploit your opponent's bad positioning if they are in bad spots. Okay, so there's a few different layouts and scenarios that we want to consider. You guys will have to forgive me. My paint skills are not the best. Okay, so we don't actually care what the layout of the field is at all. So we're just going to imagine that we have positioning on one side of the field where you have a teammate, let's say in a corner bunker, and a teammate in front of them, and then our opponents are in the exact opposite of the field. Okay, so to plug the hole would mean that we push out this direction. Okay, it doesn't have to be the case that both teams do this, but in either case, if we decide to plug the hole in our positioning, then what we would try to do is expand our coverage. Okay, so I want to talk about some definitions and terms first before we actually talk about the reasons why you would do one over the other. Okay, so for a long time, contemporary paintball, Colton, what's up, buddy? Well, for a long time, I can't even say contemporary, but for a long time, the school of thought was almost always to plug the hole. Okay, that was generally the smartest thing you could do, especially depending on what your opponent's positioning was. Okay, now there isn't a specific time frame in which this changed. I think it's probably a combination of like the massive X going away, and especially the like big W that went away as well during the NXL, where teams started to notice that it was actually a lot more risky to try and fill out and plug the hole in your positioning than it was to actually just push the side of the field that you had advantage on. Okay, sorry, I just undid one of my X's. Let's turn down this music a little bit. So to flip the field would be to actually push your advantage in whatever positioning you have. Okay, now obviously we're drawing our positioning as though we're in kind of like the corner of the field, but flipping the field is really, really good if you have a teammate already far up on one side of the field. Okay, so if you've got a teammate in the 50 Snake, you've got a teammate in the 50 Dorito, either or, flipping the field on your opponents is almost always going to be far superior than it will be to try and plug the hole. And it's especially the case that you don't want to have one of your teammates, typically speaking, I can't speak to objective truths here, but generally speaking, if one of your teammates has the idea to flip the field, you should probably support them in that effort and flip the field as well. Okay, rather than having one teammate try to push the 50 and then you leave him, abandon him, and try to fill out to plug the hole. Okay, now the reason for that is because what's the most risky thing to do when you're playing a corner bunker? Let me go back to guns up here really quick. Let me read chat. Exactly, win your side. Yep, and that's typically speaking the best play to make. Okay, again, depending on your positioning, but almost always the case will be to flip the field on your opponents rather than plug the hole. So what is the most dangerous thing when playing a corner bunker in a down body situation? The most dangerous thing, in my opinion, to do is to drop dominance on the outside of the field that presumably you have intel on, like you know what's going on in front of you, you know what's heads up. It's to drop this and try to look on the inside of the field to gain intel on what's going on here. It's far more dangerous to do that than it is to just simply wrap your bunker and to keep going this direction, or even to go up over the top of where you are to gain intel on this side of the field. Okay, oops. To gain intel on this side of the field. And the reason is because, well, one, not only do you drop whatever sort of control you have, and the only part of the field that you might have control in, you give that up to then have so many question marks everywhere. I mean, at this point, if I were to look inside the field, I have no idea if they're here. I have no idea if they're here. They might even be in my Dorito. I have no idea. But if I have control of what's in front of me, and let's say that in this situation that we're illustrating, we have positioning, we have positioning here, and we have positioning here, and we know that there's somewhere on this side of the field, then why would I not just go this direction? And same for my teammate. It's far safer. And that's, I mean, it's not only far safer, but it also, because you're playing on the outside of the field that you control already, it encourages you to flip the field. Because if your one teammate is going down the snake this direction and you're playing here and you abandon him and you look this way, well, now all of a sudden you might run the risk where, let's say in this positioning, they have a player somewhere in the snake, but their secondary player starts to make a sneaky move like this direction. You actually won't see that because your vision is blocked. You don't see any of what's going on right here. Whereas instead, if you were to just constantly wrap further and further around this bunker, you'll actually catch that, because now you're expanding your intel and your view realistically as far as this. But now you can see, the only thing you don't really see is here until you continually wrap further. So if some guy decides to make some kind of cheeky move up the center of the field to kill your snake teammate, you'll actually be able to protect him and kill him right there. Does that make sense? So again, generally speaking, flipping the field is almost always better. Okay. Now there are a few reasons why you would plug the hole. There's several reasons. Okay. And I'm not going to name all of them because there's a lot, but plugging the hole is typically what you by default do in the first 5 to 10 seconds of the point, or really probably up until the mid game you would probably want to plug your hole in your positioning. So in the case where you send a guy off the break to the Dorito, and you just kind of have a standard breakout. If your Dorito player dies off the break, it is this guy's job to fill out and gain that positioning. Okay, that's just one example of plugging the hole. If that were to be the case, and this middle guy were to push up to this tower, it might be that maybe you get a kill or even 2 on the Dorito side. And so now you have an advantage on the Dorito and this guy's pushing. It will be the case that this home guy needs to fill out and push with his teammate that direction. Okay. Because it doesn't make any sense if you get 2 kills on one side of the field. It doesn't make sense for this home guy to be trying to stop what's going on in the snake rather than just simply playing on this side of the field now. Okay, because let's say they've matched our positioning in the home bunkers, but we've killed 2 people. We've killed 2 people on the Dorito side, so this is a completely open zone right here. We'll say from here to here, this entire area is free. Well, then all we have to do is simply push up the center of the field, obviously being wary of what's going on the snake side. But all the home guy has to do is push up to the center of the field and then chop off this zone. And now we dominate this entire area. Okay. He doesn't even have to look at the snake way. If he wants to help the snake side, he can just simply do so by pushing up the field, looking here for a second, going here, looking here for a second, or just continually punishing this guy until our Dorito player can get up to this part and then also wrap, right? Because if the home guy contains their opponent's home guy or our opponent's home guy, then all that does is it frees up this front player to just immediately get to our opponent's Dorito side, who then he can kill this guy. Okay. And then as soon as he does that, this dude in the middle is free to do whatever he wants. Even before then, if this guy's super dug in and he hasn't died yet, as soon as we get a teammate in the Dorito and he's pressuring this guy, which at this point he would die, but if he still is super dug in and he's playing on like this side of the field, then this frees this dude up to just do whatever, right? Because in the case where, not that it matters for me to fly over here, but let's imagine this scenario from a more like heads up or point of view perspective. If we've got a teammate in this on their 40 shooting at him from this angle, it means that he has to play on this side of his bunker and really live behind his gun. Okay. Which means that if that's the case, he doesn't have the luxury of looking this direction, because as soon as he does, he'll die. And the best he has is to like wrap this way to shoot at this guy over here. And as soon as he does that, this guy picks him off. This guy kills him. Okay. So that means that he really the only angle that he can afford to look is really like here and here. Like this is the only angle that he can afford to look, because if he wraps any harsher, this guy will pick him off and this guy will pick him off. So that's how you punish people. Okay. If you get 2 kills off the break really quick, really early, then all you have to do is in that case, flip the field and push your advantage. Okay. By people picking up those zones. Does that make sense? Any questions? So let's go back to paint really quick. Oh, excuse me. So let's imagine some other scenarios here really quick. Let's imagine that our teammates, or rather, where is this? Let's imagine that this is our positioning. Or rather, let's say... Okay, so in the case where you have a backline bunker positioning, okay? Let's say this is a corner bunker. This is kind of the inset bunker just before that. And our teammates have this side of the field completely blown up. Well, what do we do in this situation? Can somebody... Hold on. I don't have any mods, I don't think, Colton. Colton's my mod on Discord. 1 second. What do you ban? Yeah, I forget. I got you. Yeah, I need to get... Colton, I need to give you mod. I forgot. Let's see if... Can I mod you? Add moderator. Colton Atwood is now moderator of your channel. There. Easy. Colton, if you're still here... you don't have to be, but if you are still here, please be sure to get rid of those people. Okay. Get him out of here. Matt, what's up, buddy? Corner goes to the middle. Goes to the middle to get closer. Yeah, so there's obviously lots of different routes that people can take in this scenario, but this is a situation in which flipping the field is kind of really hard at this point, right? Dude, these sex bots are taking over YouTube, dude. They are, absolutely. So this is a situation in which what you would probably want to do... where's my line? Is push this direction and contain. Okay. Now you wouldn't want to, I mean, again, it's hard to get into like really specific examples of what to do when we are not really using specific layouts to illustrate this. But it could be the case that this person ends up moving out this direction. But all that really matters is that this guy contains this person. Okay, now that doesn't mean that he has to play this side of the field. It very well could mean that he goes this direction. Okay, so that both people are playing on the side of the field that they know there's no one else, right? This is a situation in which this person might then push this direction, okay? So it's kind of a pseudo sort of flip the field, but also, I guess I could just draw the lines towards each other. But these people are typically trying to punch at each other in this situation, okay? Because what you want to do is that this person wants to contain them out of this zone and vice versa, right? This person wants to contain them out of this zone. They both want to contain each other so that they can't break out and expand their positioning. Now that's just in hopes that they don't, they don't try to expand out. It very well may be that these people just keep trying to go this direction. But the only riskiness for these guys in both pushing this same direction is that if, for example, let me get rid of these. If this person is only able to get up to, like, let's say your 40 Dorito or maybe 30 Dorito, then this guy, it doesn't really make sense for him to kind of follow right behind his teammate. It would make more sense for him to branch out. Because if he does follow right behind his teammate, well, then that's an even easier contain, right? Because now if you even get a little bit of positioning out from them, then you've contained them into this really teeny pocket. Okay, so in the case where they have, essentially what I'm illustrating here is if they have positioning over you in a backline scenario, the most important thing is for this person to contain the farthest person up the field. Okay, now you certainly could, again, depending on the layout, this person could contain, but just kind of like as a general principle, this person's job is to try and push. Okay, is to try and push and get some kind of positioning here in this part of the field, and not let this dude fill out. You do not want this guy to fill out as much as you can. It's okay if he pushes forward. You don't want him to fill out. Does that make sense? Carlton, welcome, buddy. These are facts. Joined the Discord. Awesome, dude. I'm glad to have you here. I'm here to learn. Matt the Gym Rat, welcome, buddy. I'm glad you're here. Okay. And obviously, whatever example we go through, the opposite would be true. Okay. Let's see about a different scenario. Let's say we have, this one might be a bit more obvious for people. Let's say this is our positioning. Okay, again, we are up top. Our opponents are down bottom. Let's say this is our positioning. Now, generally speaking, and again, as you guys know, anytime I talk about lower divisions, it's not in a like patronizing sort of way or condescending sort of way. So don't take this in the wrong way. But generally speaking, lower division people in a 2-on whatever scenario will almost immediately want to cross up. Okay, almost regardless of what's going on the other side of the field. Now, what's the problem with this? Okay, now, and this is true. If you go watch raw footage of like D5, D4, D3 even, you will see that in a down body situation where there's only 2 players left, one of the players will scream to the other, cross up, cross up, cross it up, cross it up. And like, that's just not good. You don't want to do that unless you are in a very severely down body situation and you know their positioning. But a lot of times people make that decision without really even knowing what their positioning is. Now, what is the big problem with doing that? The big problem with doing that is that if you look at the lines that I've drawn, right? And again, depending on how shallow or how deep this guy right here, for example, like how deep or how shallow he decides to cross up, obviously depending on what sort of layout exists, means that even if he just kind of looks at a conservative bunker on the Dorito side and this guy looks at whatever's going on in the snake, this gives them this entire area to move in, and sometimes even farther up, right? We're just giving them this ground entirely. Okay, so that's not good. We don't want to do that. Instead, what we want to do is this guy wants to play on the outside of his bunker, and this person wants to play heads up and survive. Do whatever you can to not die to this 2-man operation. It's also okay, depending on if it's the snake side, Dorito side, whatever. It's also okay to give up the tape if you're getting 2-man bullied. Okay, so if both of these people are shooting down the wire and you're trying to gun battle them, that's a no-no. Because all you're doing is risking your body unnecessarily. What you need to do is give your teammate time to make it all the way down the field while containing this person to then flip the field on them, right? This is a situation in which this guy would very likely want to play. He'd want to play very, like, prioritize his survivability. But again, if they're not anywhere on this side of the field, like anywhere else outside of this corner here, again, they could even be as far up as the 50 if we wanted. They could be all the way up here. All we want to make sure to do is play the side of the field that we have advantage. And in this case, they don't have anybody over by our teammate. So we want to buy as much time as we can for this guy to make this move and absolutely stop them from breaking out of this containment, because they have inadvertently, by their positioning, contained themselves to this corner. Okay. So that's super, super important. Now, there's lots of ways in which you can cross up to establish some kind of containment. That's totally possible. It's just really hard because a lot of layouts have so many bunkers that like obstruct your view that it's not very viable. But let's say, for example, this person were to cross up to make sure that this guy doesn't, I don't know what vision they would have. It'd have to be some kind of gap that they could watch. So what they would do is this guy would stop any sort of progression immediately as soon as they identify the situation. Let's say right off the break, they lose 3 people and these guys lose 3 people, and this happens to be their positioning. It does take a second to kind of figure out the chaos. So if this person figures out the chaos and just in order to buy himself time says, let's cross it up, then this guy needs to scan. This guy needs to find where the people are, okay? Both people should be doing that, but at least the guy on the right side of the screen knows that there's people in the snake, okay? This guy needs to be scanning as much as he can. And then as soon as he identifies where they're at, he establishes this containment. Okay. As soon as he says, I've got the snake or I've got the containment or whatever word you want to use, you can come up with a code word yourself. This person then drops this cross shot and instead plays on the outside of the field all the way down until he gets to their side. Okay. Again, the biggest thing you want to just make sure that doesn't happen is that this person isolates this guy in a one-on-one and kills him, because now if you find yourself in this situation where you're here and they are here, but your teammate is dead, whatever, big dead, you're in big trouble. Because now this guy all he has to do is protect his buzzer, and this guy can then get to your buzzer. Easy, okay? So it's super, super important to remember, like, hey, am I an island or am I the guy who needs to survive? In this case, you're the island, right? Because this guy has the advantage to push. Okay. He doesn't want to fill out either way. Not worth the risk. Okay. Dropping potential lane. Yeah, so Sorry, I kind of go past your guys' comments, so I want to read them, but it's hard for me to read the comments at the same time as I'm illustrating these. So me reading your comments is a little bit out of context for me. Obviously, again, the layout's going to dictate a lot of what moves actually exist, but the principle is still the case that this guy wants to push. Okay. Again, you also want to just like shoot at them, right? You just want to apply as much pressure as you can, which might mean that in this situation, because here's the opposite. Here's like the counterfactual of this situation. I said that you want to be careful. If you're this corner guy, you want to be careful about being bullied by these two people. But the counterfactual is true that if these people are being contained by the same angle, then this guy has a lot of power in that situation, right? Let's say, for example, it's like it's a true snake where there's no gaps. You can't really get out of the snake except backpedal. Like, let's take the last layout, for example. Here, we'll actually even go over to it. So let's say that the scenario was that you had a teammate here and you were over here. It doesn't even really matter. And then you had a guy in the snake that was like here. Your opponents were here and here. Okay. The biggest thing is you don't want this guy. You got to make sure this guy doesn't get out of this corner bunker. Okay. But otherwise, this is almost the same angle. I mean, it's not a great example. The better example would be like if they were here and here, because then this dude in this position can dominate both people with pretty much the same lane. You obviously have to worry about the over the top shots, but the opposite of this scenario is that this guy has a ton of power over two people that are in bad positions. Okay. It actually could even be, we can make this even more obvious where it's like, there's a guy here and there's a guy here. Okay. Well, now in this situation, this guy doesn't even need to go all the way this way. This guy could literally just, as long as he can safely do so by blinding out, this guy can just chop the field, literally just cut off the entire field, making this move so that they can't fill out back here. And then here's the positioning. Again, this guy needs to stay alive in the corner, but now he can probably fight them more heads up, right? Because what you don't want is for this dude to just kind of twiddle his thumbs and let them get all the way over to your snake without any contention. And then as this dude tries to fill out, he just gets killed in the cross shot. That's what you don't want to have happen. But all I was trying to say is like, you know, kind of broadly or agnostically speaking, it's okay to drop this outside zone so long as you're trying to still contain them by playing the side of the field where they're not on. So they're not anywhere here, right? Well, that means that if they're nowhere on the Dorito side of the field, you don't necessarily have to shoot them you don't have to shoot them down the wire necessarily, right? You can play this side of the field. You can play here. You can shoot them up over the top, come up over here, gain control, and then as soon as you get control, you come here. But in the situation where they're in the snake corner, it's totally okay to play right here. Right? As long as you're giving your teammate time to get up to the Dorito side of the field, as long as you're giving, you know, your teammate enough time to get up here, that's okay. Make sense? Andre, what's up, buddy? Teammate checking in. Welcome. Welcome. Okay, let's look at some other examples here really quick. I wish I had Rusty Glaze when he came to do the clinic. He had a little cardboard piece that he had written all these things down, which I think ended up getting thrown away, which is really sad. Really sad. Okay, let's go back. So now let's imagine we're just going to do like one more scenario. Okay. There's a lot of scenarios we could do. I'm just thinking. So let's imagine that they're in a corner and they are here, somewhere in the 50. Okay. And let's imagine that we are here and we are here. Okay. This is a little bit less of an obvious example. A lot of the ones that I already talked about are pretty straightforward. Okay. Now, if we were the people up top, this might seem like a very scary situation, okay? But if we imagine the guy in the 50 is kind of in a like massive brick, that's not a great bunker to fight out of. It's a very difficult bunker to get in a gun battle in. It's a very good bunker to surprise people, but it's very... Jordan, what's up? But it's very difficult to like get in a straight up gunfight with somebody in that bunker, at least in my experience. Some people might disagree. Some people might think it's the best bunker ever. But in my experience, trying to gunfight out of a center brick that's super big, really awkward, especially with like the little ties and stuff. It gets in the way all the time. So this is a situation, I'll read your thing in just a second. This is a situation where it depends. What's really important here is to know where your opponents are looking, okay? What your opponents are likely going to try to do is they're going to try to keep you out of the snake side using their 50 guy while this dude plays heads up and fights you, okay? So now what is something we can do to counter this? Well, just using this as an example, the lanes and zones that they're not looking at is all right here. Okay. Obviously, depending on what sort of visibility the guy playing heads up in the corner has, dictates this. But generally speaking, this is the part of the field that they don't see. Okay. So in the case where you have this positioning against them, it's very tempting to fill out here as this guy in back center or wherever he might be to try and pinch this dude out, right? Because the idea is, well, if we can get wide on him, then this guy can't survive. But the problem is this guy wants you to make that move. This guy wants you to do that. But this guy is also really far away from his teammate back here, okay? So that any sort of run through, any sort of play that you make towards this dude in the center is going to be hard for this person to react to. And he usually will have to have his paint flying towards you. Otherwise, he's not going to hit you. Okay. So if that's the case, then often what you can do is this guy can just look cross for a second, right? We want to keep tabs on this guy. We want to keep him honest, as they say, which is to simply shoot at them every so often to make sure they don't just take moves freely. Against somebody who's mindful of this, they're just gonna put shots at you and run. But we're gonna hope that the teammates are fighting against are a little timid here. But in this situation, it's very tempting to again do this, right? Play the outside of your bunker, try to push towards your opponents, and then kill this guy. But this dude right now has a lot of threat to both of us. Okay. So a really simple thing you can do, and again, it has to be quick, but you can look on the inside of the field, just make sure he's not looking this direction. And as soon as that's the case, then this player makes a move up here. Okay. And then as soon as he makes a move up here, he's checking off this guy, and then he's going to go run this down dude while this dude then switches. I know that's like, seems really nuanced, really specific, but I promise that really what I'm trying to illustrate is this guy is actually really easy to bully, because once he is isolated by himself in the center, he actually doesn't have that great of positioning. Or again, what I said at the top of this is that it's really important to know where this guy's gun is at. As soon as this guy looks this way, this dude launches. As soon as he does. As soon as this guy starts to get shot at, and the easiest way to know when he does this is if these guys are kind of crossed to start, and as soon as he sees this teammate, I know I'm drawing so many lines. As soon as this guy sees that there's paint coming at his teammate from this angle, he should immediately work to get out to this direction. Now, against good players, they will head check as they do this, right? So, for example, if we go back to the layout really quick, against good players, when they do this, I'm just using this as an example, they will shoot here, shoot, and then they will come up over the top and shoot, and then they'll come back down, shoot, and they'll come up over the top, shoot. That's against good players. Good players like pros, whatever, they will do that to keep tabs on where their opponents are running, because again, as soon as you make this decision to look on the inside of the field as the center player, oh, I gotta find paint. As soon as you make that decision to shoot here, this guy is free to launch as soon as possible. And then he will either surprise this guy right here. It's very possible that he can just even run straight at him and shoot him in the pack. And now as soon as that happens, it's game over, right? Now you've just got so much pressure on your opponent you've got a massive pinch. Okay? Makes sense? All right. What is the defense to keep from getting cut off or having the field flipping on you? So that comes down to containment. Okay, so let's do a scenario again where the field has been being flipped on us, okay? So let's say, because really the only way our opponents can flip the field on us is if we don't have any body on that side of the field, all right? So again, if we go back to the very basic example of we have opposite control of the field, then what we want to make sure to do is that somebody is keeping tabs on containment. Generally speaking, the person behind is the one who's working on containment, okay? So both players, however, are fighting on the outside of the field. That's the key to this situation. It's okay to every so often try to shoot the guy that's moving up the field on the inside. It's okay to do that every so often. It's not to say that you should never do that. It's just that if you have the same shot, but you can do it on the outside, then you can contain both players. You can contain both players from that angle, right? So let's go back to guns up really quick. So if I was in the corner and I wanted to stop, let's say I wanted to stop this gap, okay? This Dorito gap right here. If I wanted to stop this gap and we had a guy in the snake and they had control on the Dorito side, let's say even, we'll make it pretty simple. Let's say they had a player here and a player here, okay? And we want to contain them, obviously. We want to keep them in this corner. Well, if I have a teammate in the snake and I just need to wait for them to get all the way down the field, then what makes more sense? Should I try to hold this zone on the inside by shooting a bunch of paint right here, and then wrapping to shoot here at this guy? I don't think so. I think what would make more sense, and most people I think would agree with me, is that you play this side, okay? So now my priority is more established on containing this guy by, again, shooting at him while also shooting this zone, okay? The only blind spot that I'm going to have is right here. Or, excuse me, I'm going to have this as a blind spot to me. These cluster of bunkers right here, I won't know what's going on, and it's up to my teammate to play cautiously and carefully as he moves up to the snake to be mindful of that. But if the opposite was the case, that I was watching here, which again, people have a very, you know, if you're getting pressured by somebody on the inside of the field, you're not likely to then face check that as the paint's coming at you, right? So it would be very easy for me to just shoot this zone the whole time. Well, all the while my opponents are making some sort of move over this direction towards my snake. Okay. So if we instead just control what we already have vision and you know, intelligence on, if we just control the zone from this direction, this is how we stop the containment. Okay. Now, in the case where they do break out of this containment, let's say, heaven forbid, they don't break out of this one. That would really suck. But let's say that, and it would actually be really hard for them to do that if we had a guy in the snake, but let's say they get past this containment, right? They get to our Dorito right here, okay? And I hate to make this so specific to this layout because there's obviously a lot that can happen. But let's say we've contained them here, and we are here, and then they have I should draw X's, actually. So circles for us, X's for them. So if this were the case, it would still be true that I would want to play on this side of the field, okay? And what we're looking to do is pinch out or isolate where possible. So as long as I can see this wedge, and hopefully both sides of the bunker, as long as I can see this, then that means that when my snake player inevitably goes down the snake freely, albeit, right? As soon as he gets right here and he shoots at this guy, maybe he misses, maybe he doesn't, or he gets here and he gunfights, maybe doesn't kill him, whatever. Even if we don't shoot this guy right from the initial snap, I now have the ability to shoot him because we've pushed him this direction, and I would shoot him right here. But if I try to look on the inside of the field and contain this guy, then what I've done is I've created two 1v1s. Okay? I've created this 1v1, and I've created this 1v1, and that's not good. What you want to do is you want to like apply pressure, keep tabs, apply pressure, keep tabs. Okay, your snake guy is the one who's going to win the point for you because this is a free. That's a, you know, all the way to their side of the snake is pretty free, but it only works if we keep them contained. If we don't allow them to break down this direction of the field. Okay. So this would be the case in which you would want to just shoot this guy and then wrap and try to find this dude and shoot him. Shoot this guy, wrap, shoot this guy, shoot this guy. If this guy starts to pressure you by going this direction, then your teammate, that's freedom for your teammate to launch. As soon as this guy looks this direction and starts shooting at me from that angle, then that's the signal for this dude to get to the corner. And so now he's in the corner and I'm in the corner and this dude's here and this dude's here. Okay. And in some cases, it might come down to just simply which bunkers on which layouts offer superior coverage, right? This Dorito player is very susceptible to being shot by the snake guy, even in a drop shot. So if our snake guy is in this corner and he's shooting at the wedge, but he can't see him, it's very possible for him to just look over. I mean, again, maybe not in this specific bunker I outlined. Yeah, it looks like that wedge is going to block it. But there's a lot of drop shots that you can get on a Dorito guy. Like, let's say the Dorito guy paused here for a second to shoot at me in the corner. Well, now our guy in the snake corner, their snake corner is going to kill him, right? Otherwise, if he shoots this dude and he can't see the Dorito guy, then this dude advances, comes up here, shoots, he doesn't see him, comes here, looks, tries to shoot him, doesn't get gets the buzzer, right? Because remember, we win points by pressing the buzzer. We don't win points by killing people. That's an inadvertent way of success. Not even inadvertent. It does directly really lead to your success. But you don't have to shoot everybody. You can press the buzzer without having to eliminate every opponent on the field. Okay. Okay. Sorry, let me catch up on chat here really quick. What is the defense? Okay, 2-on-2. The front snake guy would be shooting. Let me make sure I can follow you here really quick, Dan. Okay. The front snake guy would be shooting across the field, ignoring the corner. Yes. So, oh my gosh. Hide user on this channel. How do I thought I banned this person. How do I ban people? Brock, what's up? Welcome. So yes, if you can, so this is again depending on how much vision each other, like everybody has on each other. I'm not trying to get too specific to this field, but if for example you got up to the snake really quickly and you got right here, you would look this direct. Oh man, it's hard to see. If you got up to their snake, you would look here to kill anybody that's on the Dorito. That's the first thing you would do. All the while your corner guy is containing this dude right here. That's the first thing you would do. Okay. If you don't see anybody as you're scanning, it's very possible that by the time you do that, they might be in your Dorito. And again, depending on the angle you have, so long as you have the containment established on this dude in the corner right here, as long as you have the containment established on that guy and you're keeping him in his bunker, then this might be the better option to do, right? So long as you're staying alive in the corner. My only point, I was trying to speak more agnostically, right? To not be super specific to this layout. But if you're both like sprinting down each other's opposite sides of the field, it might be the case that it's just that this guy is who you were able to eliminate. If not, then yes, looking cross right here is what will kill them. But usually when people get to the snake 50 right off the, you know, within a reasonable amount of time, mid even to like early late game, then yeah, as soon as they get here, they're going to look for crossfield kills. That's the first thing they're going to do, is look for those crossfield kills. As soon as they don't find them, they're going to wrap and go. So Brock, welcome to the YouTube streams. Brock is a long-time viewer. I feel like it's fair to say long time. It's been a while. Okay. Any other questions? We're gonna move on to talking about playing the pocket. If nobody else has any questions. Okay. Playing the pocket. Well, first, let's talk about what that even means. It feels that way. Dude, when you get old like me, everything feels that way. Everything feels like it's been a long time. Last week feels like it's been a long time. Okay, so what does it mean? What does it mean to play the pocket? So, playing the pocket means that you are playing a zone control paintball, okay? As opposed to playing like heads up aggressive paintball. Now, this isn't necessarily like the dichotomy that we're restricted to, but generally speaking, when people say play the pocket or we should play the pocket, I'm turning 32 Sunday, I feel you. Nice. Well, happy early birthday. But generally speaking, people play the pocket in response to their opponents taking ground really early or trying to take ground really early or being very aggressive off the break, right? It's also a way to, especially if you get kills, it's a way to contain your opponents that like to go up to the center of the field. Okay. So, I mean, there's lots of things that the pocket can do that might not even, you know, some people might even disagree with that sentiment, but oftentimes playing the pocket means that you're dug in, you're trying to survive, and you're trying to contain your opponents in certain zones by just dumping paint into those zones. Okay. Yo, what is this pocket exactly? I've heard the term a lot. Don't know what it is. We're going over it right now, baby. So let's say, for example, you have opponents that really like to go deep off the break, okay? They like to go deep. Well, I mean, it's hard to give specific reasons as to why you'd play the pocket. Admittedly, it's because it's been a while. It's been a while since I played in a tournament, so it's hard to reference this, or remember this specific, like, okay, we play the pocket in response to this exact game plan. But so maybe let me just talk about what it means to play the pocket. So there's a lot of cases on different fields in which you will have a heads up gunfight. Okay. So for example, this isn't really a heads up gunfight, at least not on the guns up layout. It might have been the actual tournament, but this is close enough. Actually, yeah, we'll just use this as an example. So playing heads up would mean that I am shooting at my teammate heads up in front of me. Okay. Playing the pocket, however, might mean that I concede a certain amount of ground or I just avoid heads-up gunfights, and instead I'm just using this as an example. Try not to think too specific to this layout, but it might mean that instead I just pump a ton of paint into this zone, right? I'm conceding to an extent a certain amount of ground to my opponents, but hopefully by everybody on our team playing the pocket, we are all covering some portion of the field that prevents our opponents from moving up towards us. This is really good against teams that it's coming back to me now. Playing the pocket is really good against teams that are very impatient, or that teams that don't manage their paint very well, which is admittedly a pretty hard thing to scout, right? But teams that come out on the field with very little pods, playing the pocket is usually a pretty good way of burning their... Like, if you come out with a lot of paint and they didn't have a lot, playing the pocket is usually a good way to oppress your opponents, to just absolutely throw so much paint at them, not allow them to move out of their bunkers. And again, a lot of times when you are playing such strong zone control, which is what you do when you play the pocket, it causes people to get really antsy. It causes people to, like, gunfight and get out of those situations unnecessarily, right? Again, another reason why you might play the pocket is because you're up on a lot of points. Let's say you're up on 2 to 3 points in a series, and they've only got like 3 minutes to score, to catch up or either score as many points to tie or beat you, right? You're up 3 points, let's say, and they have 3 minutes to score at least 3 points. Playing the pocket in that situation might be the best play, right? If your team's good at playing it, if your team's good at executing it, which again means that what we are doing is every person has a job in which they're shooting a zone. Okay? So every person is shooting a zone that ideally keeps them out of bunkers that would kill us. The trick to playing the pocket is that you have to hit your shots. You have to kill